Hope Channel, changing lives.
Evening. My name is Anita Delight, and this is the Law Chambers, where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. Last week, we did a little bit on companies and legal beginnings. And if you didn't learn anything at all, you learned what a business is, the type of businesses we have. And I hope your take home was the fact that if you are starting a business, you can start with sole proprietorship. You don't have to start with limited liability company or unlimited liability company. Why? Because if you start from there and anything happens and you want to fold up, you have to wind up. And if you want to do it again, you have to start all over again and go and do all the registration again. However, if you start from sole proprietorship and you grow and you want to go to the next stage, you can go to the limited and the unlimited. So the sole proprietorship gives you more room. But of course, we looked at the pros and cons of all the companies and the types of companies we have and how to go about it. So you have the Office of the Registrar of Companies. That's where you're going to register a company. Today, I want us to be a little bit more practical. We are still going to talk legal a bit, but we spoke more legal last week. Today, how do we start it? Where do we start it? When do we start it? You have that business plan in your head, right? How do you go about it? That's what we're going to discuss today. And yes, you'll be overwhelmed a little bit when you're discussing it, but I always say, take something home. That one thing that strikes you, you have to take that home. So I have two guests here, two very, very important guests here. And if I'm going to really, really go through their CV, we'll not leave here today, but I'll try and do something a little bit with it. So I have Mr. Richard Sarkodie Abebrese. Rich is the Chief Operations Officer at Goodwill Insurance Brokers Limited. He's a head of pensions at Broadview Trust. He was the pensions account manager at the Metropolitan Pensions Trust. He's an associate of Chartered Insurance Institute. I can go on and on. When it comes to insurance, when it comes to starting your own thing, when it comes to giving advice in respect to business, trust me when I tell you, Richard is the man to go to. So, Richard, are you ready?
I am.
Are you sure?
Very.
And then, of course, you know I like to balance things, right? I like to balance things. So I have with me Madam Fatima Ali Mohammed. She's the past chairperson for agribusiness sector of the Association of Ghana Industries. She's the founder and CEO of African Brand Warrior. She's the Queen Mother Royal Palace of Amia, Ghana. The Queen Mother Royal Palace of Ahoy, Ghana. She's a part of the Council of Patrons of Oil Palm Development Ghana, Regional Director, African Nations of Women, President, Ghana Women International Chamber of Commerce, India, Board Member, Ghana School of Marketing, Board Member, Cotton Board, Ghana. Should I go on? Hey, if I continue. But what struck me about her is the fact that she's known for creating from scratch, branding brands. So we looked at when you hear of when you see rice, edible soaps, detergent, all that, most importantly, Phytol. You see, Phytol is that home thing. When you talk about oil, everybody thinks of Phytol. That Phytol that is in your head, Fatima is responsible for it. So you have to, Fatima, you are welcome.
Thank you, Odase.
Odase. You are Kenyan?
Yes.
Looks more Indian.
And Indian.
Yeah, you know, in East Africa, we're very multicultural because a lot of us are fifth generation. So we don't see ourselves as anything else. It's like what you have in Ghana as well, from the colonization period.
But your CV is strong.
Thank you.
I
wish the money would be as strong.
I know, right? Hello, Sylvia. Then you look at the money and go like.
Sometimes now you wonder why do you put all that? Because my nephew is 7, and the other day, I know we're digressing, and I was talking to him because, you know, when the players were being bought recently, the footballers,
Crazy.
Ronaldo, I know those kind of money. So I called him because he's a Messi fan, and Messi was being proposed to by the Saudi government as well, and I think the figures were 400 million or something. It was crazy, and they were going to give him a jet. So I called his mom just to say that, oh my God, tell my nephew that, you know, Messi is being considered. So I could hear my nephew in the background. He says, you see, Mom, I told you all this thing I'm doing at school of learning decimal 0.02 is not helping me. I need to go and play football and make money. And I realized actually that is true. You'd rather have a skill as a talent than going, where did we?
Whichever way it is.
All its pie charts we learnt, and actus and angle, and I don't know what, where are we using it?
But it's really impressive. The
Thank
CV
you,
is
I'm
true.
humbled.
And of course, I have my sign language interpreter, Ata Nyameche. Ata, so how, you are welcome. Anything? Welcome. Welcome.
Welcome. I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's delve into it. So, let me start with Fatima. Fatima, I want to start a business strategically. Help me start it.
So the first things first, that I've realized a lot of people try to get into more of paperwork than anything else. And I'm a business advisor, I'm a strategist, and everything is like strategy. It's like playing a game of chess. And one of the biggest challenges we have on the continent is if you are selling ice cream, I want to also go into ice cream because I think you've done it, I want to do it.
Makes it easier.
We don't go sussing the market, trying to understand where are my strengths first? What is it that I can do, right? What am I good at? What do I feel I have in terms of an investment, or where can I get it from? Is the first place to start with. Where is that market opportunity? Are you looking at taking a total pie of it, or do you want to take a small share, 5%, 10% of that market? So that becomes your starting point. And then secondly comes in terms of the name. People leave name to be lost, okay? And one of the things that I've noticed, especially in Ghana, and you find this in Nigeria, we're very biblical, you know, and obviously we're on a Christian channel, so amen to that. We're very pro God. We're God's people. But when you go creating Divine's Cafe, or you want to create a benevolence biscuit, it doesn't say anything unless that biscuit is really going to make you benevolent. You know what I mean? So branding is so crucial in the starting of anything that you do, because when you hear a name, it must create something for you. Obviously, we're on a station, so I cannot take certain brand names.
Brands, yeah.
But there's certain brands, when you go into research or you do focus groups and you ask people, what does this beverage make you think? Or like the oil brand we've just spoken about, and you tell them to personify it, they can actually even tell you what that woman looks like if that brand was a person. So in branding, we call that personification, being able to personify who it is. So those become the key elements. And then you go into the aspects of saying, okay, you know what, you want to go and start a company. Now you know what the market size is. You know what your talent is. You know where your strengths are. Who do you want to possibly partner with? Because that's another area that we have a challenge with. We want to do everything ourselves. So not realizing that we might look at us three sitting here and each one of us has a strength. Is there a possibility for us to come together? And then going into the nitty-gritties of deciding, do you want to do a sole proprietorship? Do you want to just do this business on your own? Do you want to possibly go into a partnership? Should the partnership be somebody local? Could it be somebody international? Or do you want to become a limited liability business? You know, so there are various factors that come into it. But for me, the most important is starting with just the big idea. What is it that you think you can do that is so different than what the market is doing?
But to be fair, everything is in the market already.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
It's your unique selling proposition that you bring
it's
on board.
your USP. What is it that you have that might be different? Somebody could be selling fufu right now, okay, and all of us will eat fufu and banku and whatever. But why is it that when people go to Auntie Muni's for hawache, hawache goes all the way to the US and to the UK? Every single day people are taking it. Why? There has to be something in there that she definitely is putting for people to come in repeatedly. When we sit here, for example, we look at these mugs. Somebody sat and thought, let me create something with a handle that a left-handed could use, a right-handed can use. What does that mean? It's identifying the problem and then coming with a solution for it. We have so many problems every day, whether it's in the kitchen, in our children's lives, in little things. There's not a solution for everything that has been identified. So sometimes you can just come in there. Or even if it's about making bread, you're making bread, he's making bread, what can I do to my bread that might make it a little bit better? Can I just realize that the slices of your bread always break? When you serve them, they're always squashed. Maybe the one that he has may not look right in color, it might have too much sugar. And the market has told me that, wait a second, there is an opportunity. And I'm giving an example again from the problem. We realized during this whole Russia-Ukraine war, they're the biggest suppliers of wheat. How come we're still sitting here and crying and saying we don't have flour, we don't have flour? Yet there is a market that is ready to eat cassava flour bread. There's a market ready to eat maize flour bread. The opportunity is there. It's just that nobody has thought about it because we haven't looked at it from the perspective of, here is a problem facing us. What can we do with a solution? Why are we still depending on having to import the wheat flour for us to continue to make bread the same way? Yet we eat fufu every day. So it's not like if I give you fufu bread, your mouth is going to find that taste very different. We're used to it. So it's innovation. It's solution to a problem.
Richard,
Yeah.
talk to me, because
I think that for me, in addition to what my sister said, Fatima said, it's also about identifying the niche market that you think you can bring a unique selling proposition to. So, for example, me, an ardent eater of fufu, I don't like fufu when it's moved from a restaurant or a chop bar to another location, maybe because of the way it's packaged. So if today you got a very young, brilliant Ghanaian who can actually make sure that moving fufu from this restaurant to this office within a space of 30 minutes or 1 hour, the hygiene, the packaging, how it comes out is the same way as I would have eaten it in the restaurant or in the chop bar. He's in business. So it's always about finding that niche market and also what is your unique selling proposition to solve that particular vacuum that exists in that market. So it's really, when it comes to business, really about the little things. Fatima was talking about branding. So you look like, for example, a company, you say Goodwill. It's an intangible product. It's an environment where you're selling intangible product. So it's something that should send some form of message to say, okay, this particular broker is out here to do something new. So not just apart from the name that is resounding, again, what is your catchphrase or what is that one thing that we want to identify you from your competitors? And for us, we say that we want to be reliable. Because in every relationship, what everyone desires or desires most in every relationship is a reliable partner. Whether it's friendship, whether it's marriage, whether it's anything, you want to be a reliable partner. So those things, when you do, you are communicating to anybody who comes in contact with your brand that this is a brand that has me already in mind. So maybe I should listen to them.
So this program, the law chambers where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. Isn't it slanging it kakra? That's from a Christian perspective, because everyone is doing legal program, but we are looking at it from the Christian perspective.
Because that's how we identify ourselves to be.
And I guess you do know that there is a book for anyone anyway who's in business and marketing. There's a book, if they haven't read, that is called The Jesus Way of Marketing.
The Jesus Way of Marketing.
Oh yeah, you should go and check it out. And it's literally using Prophet Jesus's way to be able to find approaches to how you should be able to market. And it's a great book. I mean, obviously I'm Muslim, but we believe in Jesus being the prophet that is going to come and get us on the day of judgment, of which a lot of people don't know. They think it's Prophet Muhammad, but it's actually, we call him Nabi Isa, is the one that is going to come. And when you look at things from a spiritual perspective, I don't use the word religion because religion is man-created, but when you look at it as spiritual and what the books, I mean, the Bible, the Old Testament is one of the books the Quran, the Muslims believe in, because we believe in 4 books, Quran being the last, but the Old Testament and the Torah and the Zabur, which are 2 books of the Hebrew, and Book of David are books that we believe in. When you look at the lives of the prophets And even them, there was trading happening at that time. So what are the principles that existed then that moved in? Because if you know, in Africa, we only know about barter trade, and we think that's how it all started. But then it evolved. Nothing's changed. What is branding? When you think about it, branding actually started from slave trade. Because when they were taking slaves, they needed to mark them. That, you know, you belong, you're going to be for the Dutch, you're going to the British, you're going to the whatever. And they would mark them. And then after that, it moved to animals to say that this is the mark. So that's what branding is about. But we don't know. We've never been taught about it. We've just been told, oh, you know, it's about creating a label and putting a name and having some nice colors and designs on it. It has a meaning. So I'm saying, if you can go back to that mark that was being put on a man that was being taken out of Gold Coast and sent away, that's how deep that mark means. So branding is the essence of everything.
Frankly speaking, yes, we are all interested in starting that business. Yes, we've gotten the legal side last week. We are getting the idea that it's possible, that we can do it, that we have to get the niche for ourselves. We have to think outside the box. There are obviously pitfalls, right? What are some of them? Because in Ghana, companies fold up quickly. So the question is, why would I rather want to put my money in, well, not bonds, we know what bonds, I mean, buy shares or maybe buy dollars and put it in my room instead of starting a business? What are some of the pitfalls and what's the way forward?
I'll let him start.
So there are pitfalls in, just like you stated. You were going to talk about bonds and then you moved
I
away.
am not even
So it tells you that even in investment also there are pitfalls.
The dollars in my house. No, I'll not be like
let's not go there. I was just going to tell you, because I'm ready to be a maid now. I tell people we're in the wrong jobs.
So even in investment, even in those safer form of investment, as we were taught in economic class, there are still pitfalls. But essentially for doing business, and I want to be very practical,
yes,
you need to stay on the right side of the law. That is avoiding regulatory fines or imposition of regulatory fines. Okay, if you do that, you are saving so much, because sometimes these regulatory fines, there are things you can easily avoid in doing business. If you don't avoid them and the fines come, they come in huge corruption or cost of acquisition of business or services. It's also one thing that you need to. So there are two. There's a way.
Richard, now let's be practical.
Yes.
I want us to be practical. I go to the office of the registrar of companies. If I don't pay that 5,000,
No,
I'm not going to get my company.
that's what I'm saying. That yes, these are just this is not corruption.
That's
small amount.
corruption.
No,
It's not corruption.
understand
So
me.
that
The corruption that affects you said pitfalls, and I'm looking at the low hanging. What you are talking about is just a low hanging fruit. I'm talking of cost of doing business in Ghana.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Richard,
So in terms of corruption, there are low hanging fruits. That is somebody taking you like maybe 100, 200 to register.
in more
I'm
than
talking
5
of
fees
even in provision of service, you are being asked to pay. That's what I'm talking about. That I'm saying that, so it gets to a point where, because of the unique selling proposition that your company is giving, in places where people are paying a certain amount of cost of doing business, say 20 or 30, you may end up getting a haircut, quote and unquote, by paying less, because maybe they know the kind of service that you bring to the table. Exactly. So once I give, I'm trying to also give how you can go around it. So in terms of cost of doing business, I think that once you stay true to the brand, you stay true to the values, you stay true to your unique selling proposition that you gave to your potential clients at the time that you were closing business. If you live by those values, sometimes it becomes difficult that, to your advantage, in places where others are paying certain percentage to be able to maintain their business, you may end up paying less or not at all.
Okay.
So now you're getting where I'm coming from.
I do.
Exactly.
But let me come back to, I know where, I totally hear him that these other ones are what we call the gatekeepers. You know, once you cross that, there's more. But doing business today, whether it's in Ghana or anywhere, it's hard. It's a nightmare. But I think the challenge is that, and this is a perennial problem for us as Africans, more than it is only just to Ghana, is we do not like to work together. We do not like to collaborate. Okay? And if we could change that mindset of having to worry, Chale, how come he's got this car? How did he get this house? I want to compete. We need to stop that competitive mindset of competing with one another and trying to see what is it that we can do to work together, okay? I know this may be a sensitive conversation to have right now, but if we look at what's happening in Africa at the moment, in West Africa, I don't want to use the word coup, but revolution is the word. It's because you do reach a certain threshold, right? And it's coming from poverty, and the challenge is that people have not understood. People assume that poverty is only just about not having money in your pocket. This poverty of mindset, this poverty of education, this poverty of knowledge, this poverty of knowing that you can only have black tea but you can't have it with milk. You know, there's all that poverty. Why is it that you will take something from me to light your home, but I have to continue to live in darkness? So you reach a point when you say no, but when you collaborate, and I use the example of if you were to punch somebody, I can't punch you with a thumb, I can't punch you with just 2 fingers, I've got to create a fist, which means we've got to come together as 5 fingers. Now, if we could do that in a business perspective and say, what are you good at? Are you good at the pounding part of the fufu? Are you good at the packaging? Am I good at the sales and marketing? How can we each come in together so that when we're going to put in that business license of 5,000 for the fee, if we split it by 3 of us, it becomes less of a burden on one, and you're able to split it across 3. So we need to start coming in with that collaborative mindset. Secondly, business does not necessarily have to be about, oh, let's just go and get a business license and start a shop and whatever. 80% of Africa is actually successful and growing as economies, not because of the big companies. All these people you see driving in, you know, Bugattis and Land Cruisers and whatever, it's not because of them. It's because of the SMEs. It's the SMEs who actually run the country. Now, when you produce a product and you sell it in Ghana, that one Ghana CD rotates at least 8 times within Ghana. Think about it. When you're going to buy Kofi Brokman and the peanuts, by the time you're paying that lady had paid somebody to bring the bananas to her. That person went and paid somebody else to get that banana. The other one went and picked it. But when we continuously import products, and we're still a 90% import-based country, the more we send that money out, it's never coming back. Who is sending it to you? You're going to build somebody else's economy. So we need to start thinking about what is it that we can do ourselves within here. Example, the European Union is soon going to be passing a legislation, I think it's by 2025, we're already in 2023, which says that they will not be buying products out of Africa unless they are able to trace in terms of traceability and farm and whatever. And obviously they're the biggest consumers of cocoa, all right? Now, when you sit there and think, this is the one biggest product we actually depend on. And I remember speaking, I was a keynote speaker at one of the conferences a few years ago, and I kept telling people, we've got to worry about our cocoa, worry about the cocoa, because it's soon going to be taken away from. And then guess what happened? 5 years later, China's producing it, New Zealand's producing it, or there are 3 other countries that are already doing cocoa, and they're able to sell it, which is what he was referring on USP. Their USP is we're not using child labor. We're selling you fresh cocoa and the yields are better and it's not using human slaves, people are being underpaid. Do you get it? So they've chosen to find a market that is actually sensitive about the fact that we're not using child labor. But you come to Africa, me telling my child to go and cut onions is not child labor. That's my child. That's how I nurture her. That's how I grow. That's how we help each other. Exactly. So if I'm a farmer and I have a son and a daughter, that farm belongs to them as well. So by them coming to help me, it's not labor. So we've got to, this is why I'm saying these conversations are not just about finding a solution like right now. There are other things that we could get in, and those pitfalls exist if we continue to think in isolation and not think about how can we come together. And I give that an example, like right now, if there's anybody on this show, there's an SME, they need to be really paying attention to the continental free trade, okay? The continental free trade is a big word. It was created, but we were already
SMEs,
small, medium enterprises. Sorry, and the thing is that the continental free trade was something we were already doing, but we came and branded it, and we created AFTAC. It was already doing. People already moving to goods from here to Togo, from here to yeah. I'm coming to that. The thing is, the AFTAC has not been created for the SMEs. It is created for the big companies because you need to have an export license, you need to have a trading license, you need to be able to have this much capacity, you should be able to produce X, Y, Z. But guess what? Who is supposed to feed those big companies? So for example, you get a contract out of Ethiopia right now and they say, we want 100,000 pairs of shoes per day. And a shoe factory in Ghana can only produce 10,000. Who's going to give them that 90,000? It's going to be the SMEs. And you go and find small 100 companies that can give you 1,000. Collaborate, come together, supply to the guy, because you're never going to get licenses anyway. So go and supply to the big company, let him pay you, and we move. So this is what I'm saying. The pitfalls are actually in our minds. The pitfalls are lack of knowledge, lack of information. So we need to start finding ways of how can we start putting this information out there so people can start thinking differently.
But Richard, collaboration is good. There's all about trust, as you said. And frankly speaking, nothing's been equal. No one, we don't trust ourselves.
Line. In terms of
because
collaboration,
if I
without
put my
trust, it's going to be difficult.
Being practical,
Yes.
is it are you not putting yourself in harm's way to trust another person?
Now, in terms of collaboration or partnership when it comes to business, it's inevitable. It's inevitable, one, because of even the environment in which we are, where even access to financing is a big deal. So what you actually do is that, yes, synergy is best, but you would have, usually you are better off going with people you have dealt with before. So you have a network of people that you have dealt with. In my interaction with you in the first 2-3 years, I would know exactly what kind of person you are.
Are you sure?
Family and friends. So even within your own family, there are people that you know that I can't enter business with Fatima. I can enter business with Anita.
I don't know, but
So
I would
these
actually
are-
agree with you. Nowadays, the people you think you know are not.
Yeah, so when it comes to partnerships or setting up
Because
business,
I realize that that's why people are going solo.
Partnership-
Because you realize
But
that when
it
you
is-
go solo, fine, the work
but
is more
sustainability
you.
is difficult.
It is.
Yes.
And succession is difficult
Absolutely.
because
Yes.
Fact.
Yes. But the law
go
can
into
always be
ye-
on. So maybe you have a combination of two. Legally, how do you get people to stand by?
to protect,
Protect
yourself.
yourself,
So you have
protect
a
your
contract.
knowledge, protect
But in
your...
terms of partnership,
And next week we'll be
it's
talking about
inevitable.
contracts,
Yes.
all those contracts. We'll be
In
discussing
terms of
that.
partnership, it's inevitable because, for example, okay, so in terms of also how do you get people around you that you know can trust? So if you wanted to enter, for example,
don't
enter
trust
into
anybody,
partnership, you have to. In business, there are people that you know you can trust. Not 100%. The margin of
No.
error.
You either
So it's the
trust or
margin
you
of-
don't
it's
trust.
the- it's the
It's like
margin
being
of error.
pregnant or not being
So-
pregnant. There is no
so-
margin.
Honestly, there's margin of error. So, for example, in dealing with or in partnering with this person, I may lose maybe 1 million, but in losing 1 million, how much are you earning in your partnership with this person?
Oh, okay.
In partnering
okay. So
with
we
this
should look
person,
at it like that.
Exactly,
All
that's
things
what I'm
being
saying.
equal, you lose some.
As a
but
rookie,
in
by
terms
all
of the
means, you are going
gains-
to lose, but you look at always the bigger picture. If I am to partner with Anita, what kind of companies can I manage their insurance as a broker? Compared to if I am trying to call on my own as a Goodwill without any partnership, without any international partnership. What market of Ghana insurance market can I get
I think I'm
within that
getting
period?
it. So
Again, if you were
I'm
to
in
do,
Ghana, I collaborate with someone in UK, US, and Togo. But
You
the
count
money
your
that's
loss.
coming in is
You
more,
count
but
your
the
loss and then
losses will be
compare
less. So
what you
when
are
you take
bringing
it
into.
out, hey,
because it's inevitable now.
In today's
actually
world,
it's inevitable.
I'm telling you, it's inevitable. I don't know how
That's not
many
going
young.
solo.
I don't know how many young graduates now can find about 400,000, 600,000 to set up a brokerage.
no. But
That's
it's
why I'm
interesting
telling
you
you
say
that.
that.
Yes.
A lot of the young
It's
startups
inevitable.
are actually collaborating. I mean,
Without it, it's going
I
to
do
be
programs with a lot of incubators and stuff like that. And it's interesting to see the younger people trust themselves more than the older generation. Because the older generation have burnt their fingers, you know, they know.
Because we have lived through unemployment.
I'm
and
glad
we
that
know
you've also
now-
accepted you're older
Yeah,
like
we
me.
have lived through unemployment, and we know that you do well by going
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Exactly, you do well by going together. So now it's inevitable. And for example, in some of in Goodwill, some of our shareholders were friends, not family. But it tells you that you have dealt with some people for a very long time. You have a fair idea. So I'm telling you that within your stock of friends, within your stock of family, within your stock of church members, there are always those people that you can trust.
You know,
and the other question is, flip the coin. Do they also trust you?
So it means you have to put yourself in a
So
position
you
when
would
someone
have
is starting
built
a business,
that
the person
reputation.
will think about you.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know.
I get to
You
the
would have
idea.
built
It's not
that
just about you
reputation
starting
that-
a business, oh.
And
It's about
going
you
to
putting your
Anita to help. No.
It's about you
So you
putting
ask yourself that for the past 6 years, 10 years, in your relationship with Anita, does she also trust you? Before I even can come to you for you to partner me.
I don't know.
So it's a
I'm going
two-way
to have a
coin.
different
It's a two-way street.
view to that because I've had first-hand experience. I mean, my business partner is somebody that I trust completely, 100%. There is, like I said, you're either pregnant or you're not. There cannot be a doubt. But I have also had experiences of people that I have partnered who I believed I knew, would have not had a shred of doubt, but circumstances that may not necessarily be linked to work from a personal space creates this negativity or whatever, and then all of a sudden they bring that into the workspace, and then it affects everything else, and then all of a sudden now you can't relate also on the work front. It affects it. So and also I guess it's because character is something that you may think you may know of a person,
That's
So
but it's
maybe,
not.
And people
sorry, just to
change.
cut in. So in that, you would say that in your case, then it says like, believe in God, but have a gun if you can have a licensed gun.
No, I have the
That's it. So
contract.
in
So
going
that's
for
what I was going to come
exactly
to.
my
It's
point.
exactly the contract.
So, yeah.
You know,
So it
but
means that
but
you
everything
go
can't.
into relationship partnership with people
But
that have
get
the
ones
right
that can,
structures.
as much
Yeah.
as you can,
So all
plug
things
the
being
holes
equal,
that
you
can
Always
can't-
have the structure,
you
the
can't-
foundation
Very, very
and the
essential.
I'll be
structure.
talking about contracts next week.
It's
Or
very, very
everything
crucial
contract.
because
But for
just
me, when it comes to finance, when it comes to unique propositions and all that, when there's a good partnership, there's so much that you do. Because there are a lot of ideas and the combination of ideas that come together.
yeah.
There's so much that you can achieve when it comes to partnership. So what you have to do is get the right group of people to help you be able to plug the necessary holes that in future can mar this kind of relationship.
I like, that's my take home for now, that it's all about you just starting a business. Put yourself in a position where when someone is starting a business and they are thinking of partners,
You
will
are
come
one
to
of
mind.
the people
Yes,
that
they would
come
want
mind.
to.
Yes.
So the question is, how many friends, family members of yours, have come to you to say, oh, I'm doing this business, I need this monetary support, help me and let's go into this partnership? How many?
But you see, it
Yes.
shouldn't always be about monetary, because
And
you
knowledge.
might have the money,
Yeah, equity.
but I might have the knowledge.
But in
So
Ghana,
equity-
we don't respect the knowledge part.
That's
It's
that's
true.
where I'm coming from. That's where the
Practically,
problem
it's
is.
true. Nobody will
it's not for your
quantify
knowledge.
that.
Everything is about
They're not
sika,
ready to
sika,
pay
sika. You know, money can be made, but you need somebody who's able to guide you and have knowledge. So I can say today, if I was to compare, say, okay, my business partner has money, I have the brains. You know, not that he doesn't have the brains, he does.
And
But
maybe you have the brains
He's
and the
got
time.
he's got the brains on, let's say, I'm giving an example on finance, on this or that. I may have the brains in terms of market or opportunities or structures, and then you might have another person who might have the brains in terms of distribution, whatever. So it's about bringing, you know, the different strengths. It's like when you're doing a market analysis, you do a SWOT. What are the strengths and weaknesses which are internal, and then what are the opportunities and threats which are external? So you look at that and say, okay, you know what, you're weak in this area. This is probably where I can step in. This is what I can do. And this is where my strengths are. This is what I can do. And that's why it goes back to the start of the conversation. It's about collaboration. What is it that we can do together? It's like cooking. You know, you can't cook without a certain ingredient because they've all got to come. Every ingredient adds something to that dish.
It does. Hey, so now let's talk about. Okay, so let me give this scenario because someone sent it to me. It was a long one, but let me try and summarize it.
Summarize.
So he's into buying and selling at the market, and so they bring the items to the market and then he sells in large quantities. And then he realized that the people he works with are stealing from him. They steal so much so that sometimes it can cripple him, that he has to go back to the bank for money. And he has no choice, he has to work with these boys. And these boys will always take it from him. So he came to me, so we drafted, agreement, then the boys will sign, still they'll steal from him. They'll be arrested, you take them to police station, still they will steal. So, and he can't work without them. So one time he called me and was like, Anita, I think I'm ready to fold up. I've tried. I've
But
done
maybe
everything
he can try
legally.
one other
Giving them
insurance
shares,
policy.
yeah.
Yeah, fidelity
Insurance,
guarantee.
frankly speaking, I hate insurance.
But Rob, there
I-
are times you
I-
cannot do anything without us. If he had a fidelity guarantee policy, he would require all the workers to bring at least one or two guarantors.
Guarantors.
Once they guarantee, and there's any issue like that, they would reimburse him for the cost of for what they have fraudulently embezzled, and then the insurance company, through their solicitors, will go after the guarantors
I
to
would
pay
actually
up that
do
money.
the other way and give them
Yeah.
shares.
Yeah.
Give them shares.
So why I say this is, this whole conversation, I'm coming from the respect, like, let's say the planting for foods and jobs, or, one of the things that I've been talking about a lot, and until now I've stopped talking about it. I was giving an example, is that if he's a farmer, you're a farmer, and I'm the factory, okay, and I know I need 1,000, 2,000 tons, let's say, of maize. But he desperately needs money right now. He's got a child to send to school. He's got certain urgencies. We know market price, let's say, is 5 Ghana cedis per kilo. He might choose to come and sell it to me at 3, and I'll pay him. And then you get stuck because now I've got the supply that I need, and you're not able to sell. So you've got to try and find somewhere else, and you get stuck, and your products get wasted. Now, that is what's happening with this, where factories are expecting people to come and supply them, whoever's going to give them the best price, because everybody's looking at cost, okay, cost of operation. How about if I made sure that I give you and you 0.5%, and then I give the people who are doing the trucking 0.5%. So what happens is you become shareholders and stakeholders, so that by the time, if I lose as a business, means you lose. But now
I'm
when you
wondering
become...
if those workers would want to take a pay cut and get an equity of that 0.5, they would say no.
No, but I'm assuming the kind of job it is. These are not people who are willing to even pay an equity. That's what I'm saying. You give it. It's not like you pay me to give it. I tell you, I'm giving you, all 10 of you guys, I'm giving you 2.5% share. I mean, come on, you share
For free?
For free?
initially, depending
I
on
have
how.
overheads.
When you compare the cost, but you're still going to pay whatever, because that person then chooses to realize that, what, the more I steal from this is how much this company loses, and I lose in return. But when you become an owner, in today's day and age, how many people can say that they own a company and they'll ever have a dream of even being part of a company? And why I say this, truth be told, I was doing a project on rice, and I went and told my house helps and my driver that they were going to get a percentage of it. Why? Because they were never ever going to own a company. They were going to continue to be house helps, and they were going to continue to be a driver, and then all you do is to continue to just increase their salary as they go, pay their school fees and pay their rent, and then what? So if you're going to leave a legacy, and if you feel that business is so important for you, because why would I rather fold up than choose to bring the people into my business and say, you know what, guys, here, I'm giving you 5%. How can we make this thing work? Because now you also own this.
That's a new thinking.
That's
Because
what you've got to do things
ordinary
differently.
average Ghanaian will not want to give you anything else for free.
We've got to do things differently, because stealing is going to continue to. Why does we have? It's sociology. Why do people steal? It's not because everybody's a kleptomaniac and they want to continue to steal. There's a need, right? And it's something that you talked about initially
Oh,
when you
greed.
were talking about. But greed comes from where? Greed is the greed is for the big boys.
What?
It's for the big boys. I want more and more and more. But the guy who's not able to have 3 meals a day, his greed is not because he wants to have 3 meals a day. He wants to have at least that 1 meal a day.
Or he wants to hold an iPhone.
But you see,
And give
from
the girlfriend
the
an
example
iPhone.
that Anita gave of our friend who is asking
The
this
guy, yeah.
question,
Yeah.
it tells you
Solomon.
it's a group of workers who do not even care. All they
Doesn't
care
make a difference to them, yeah.
All they care about is what comes to them.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that from this example, I wouldn't be surprised if even after giving them shares, they will still want to do it. They are just people who want to eat their cake. And
See,
have it.
until we don't try it, we would know.
I have a friend who owns a company, 3 square, at least 2 meals, breakfast and lunch for hand laborers and all that. And they still
don't
would
care.
be
They still
people
steal,
offering
yeah.
drinks.
Yeah.
Let's go for this
How
short
some people
commercial
are.
break. We'll be right back.
But that is so true.
Just how some people are.
Oh, no.
say chromo for yes, Mrini. Hope Channel Ghana and yet fear noom what try abuano pair, Mitchell or say chromo. Nuta for Asias for denim. Yami Adoma, a bubble so many that tosun near nu. I think Pinunia Dunia same we are. I will nuta for Asias for dynamo. Hope Channel Ghana, a day, I hear some sonko ashi, so yes, if Fitania Babi Churiam Poye. Oh, but when you wear sweet t-shirt and say Ashawati, non do pepe penajuma dino e dia shisha so, and yes, I'm ketua. So ba. Pekakrawati fatufutuomu nyemfa mo Hope Channel asene afin pinunia duonu miensem ya mechele ni fiada ansa na homeda no aba no eye him service sonko kura ye ne kwasa twetwo wura e wo se kromo wo todom dew ana ehia wodan no mu eda no eye ni gie nkwa wada no mabra enme no so pepepepepe ne de ahyehye so Hope Channel fie num afase eye ni gie nkwa channel yes sabra Hope Channel ye ma enida so.
As a small business owner, Mitaisha Business Forum, our Hope Channel, it really helps me with my business.
Don't let your priorities be because obi eye bibinti. Also we share some wide. Why one kasa sawasa. So we jani niya we biani.
Okay.
Obi ani need so that unko fa a problem in my house.
In the first place, business, a risk.
Okay.
It's just all about risk. Now, pursue your business, so now you need you should be a risk taker.
Okay.
I would recommend it to you to Mesresa Usu Beshebi.
Discuss a lot behind the scenes, and when to start the business, where to start from, how to start. At least you are having a general idea of where we are going with this. Now let me. You'll be thinking, is this legal? Is this legal? Trust me. Before we can get into it proper, we need to understand where we are coming from. And so let me ask Fatima this question. Fatima, you've started a business. You are just starting. Do you really need a lawyer? Do you really need a chartered accountant? Do you really need these professionals in your body? Because
well, it depends on the size of the business, to be honest. There's a
environment.
thing. Yeah, there's a nice to have, and there's a need to have. So there's certain things that are nice to have because it's nice to have, and then there are things that are need to have. So depending on the size of the business, where you are, which kind of country you're in, what are the legal requirements in there. Most of the times it's straightforward when you're going to do registration, XYZ. But when you do not know the environment or you do not know what it entails, because lately, I mean, you go start something and then all of a sudden, I'm not going to name the government institute, but all of a sudden you have people walking into your office from this entity saying, we need this. Another one comes in and says, oh, you haven't done this. So you're not expected to know it because you didn't walk out of university with all this information. So at that point in time, the right person to have is obviously somebody who is going to be guiding you, and that would definitely be a business lawyer. Somebody who's going to be able to walk you through this and is able to tell you that these are the guiding principles for every step that you take. What are the regulatory requirements? What are the authorities that you need to be signed up with? Because today you could be producing something and you might decide that you don't need Food and Drugs Authority. And then all of a sudden, in the documentation says you don't need them, but then somewhere down the line you realize your product ultimately goes to a consumer who's going to use it to touch something that has got to do with food, and then all of a sudden they come for you, but there's no paperwork that says that it was a requirement. So a lawyer is able to hold your hand through those choppy waters to get you to understand. Then obviously after a while you've got the hang of it, you're in the business, you know it. In terms of accountants, it's definitely not necessarily a chartered accountant, because that's when you're really running big things, you're doing a lot more stuff in that space. But you do need somebody who's able to help you from an accounts perspective. Now, like I said, I have worked with a lot of young startups. Again, because I cannot mention their companies or their business names, who exist right now, who are dealing, and again, I keep wanting to focus on the SMEs because the big boys know they all have a lawyer. Everybody has a lawyer. The chances are they're all using the same lawyer. But the people who get stuck are the people in the midstream to the bottom end of businesses. People who are starting up. You're going to put up a hair salon, you're going to create a chop bar or whatever. They cannot necessarily afford a lawyer at times, right? So what we've seen is that there's a lot of startups that have come up that are giving you apps and tools where they can handle your accounting for you, okay? Because today, if you want to walk into a bank to even ask for a loan, you're not going to get it unless you're able to show documentation that this is what your business has been doing, this is how much your turnover is. It's important to keep track. One of the biggest challenges we have as Africans, and especially in the bottom part of the pyramid, is we like to keep money with us, you know, whether it's under mattresses or whatever. When I say it, not in the literal sense, but they want you to give me a discount on this bottle now, right? So what happens is, if I go to him and I say, you master, this thing, 5 Ghana cedi is too much, I'm buying 10 from you, give it to me at 4.5. So what happens is, I'm not calculating that 0.5 as a saving and put it in something straight away. I say 4.5 and then I go and sell it, but I have not figured out, because I've not seen that money. So how can we turn mindsets? And this is something I did very well when we were at Frito with Wilma, where we refused to give people credit on that product at that time. We turned it into a turnover discount at the end of the month. So what happens is, all of a sudden you've done all these purchases, and then at the end of the month you realize, my God, I've got 5,000 Ghana cedis credit. The money is still lying there. So you can use that money now to again procure without having to add more. So we need to again start bringing that culture of understanding that and only accountants can help you with that. So it's important to keep your books in order, because that's how you know that I've reached a certain level. So I can tell you just personally, when I know, let's say I have 1,200 Ghana cedis, this is how I started as in my earlier days to now. And I've done the same thing, trained my daughter on the same thing. So I have 1,200 Ghana cedis. It means that, okay, my threshold I've put is 1,000. So I'm allowed to use that 200 Ghana cedis. How I use it doesn't matter. Then when I reach 1,400, for example, then I'll say, that 1,000, I've got to put that 200. Now I will be allowed to play with 100. Do you get it? So you keep keeping a cap, so that at any point in time you keep adding and you reduce what you're taking out. Only an accountant can help you with that.
Richard.
My advice, no matter how small that you are starting, you need a professional, or you need professionals. Because without a lawyer, you cannot work within the remit of the law. You need to be legally compliant even before your company can take off. So to the young mind founder who wants to start something, what I'll tell you is that you need a professional, but you can get it, there are various ways in which you can get it. You can either get it through the commercial rate, where they have to charge you, or you can also get a lawyer who is a family friend who can give you a discounted rate, or get it No, I mean discounted rate. I didn't say for free.
No, we still don't do this.
You don't do, okay.
You don't.
That's why I said, I'm advising my young.
Yes.
I am advising my young. Just like I can give you, just like I can give you pro bono. But I mean, essentially, you need those professionals to give you a walkthrough, and it makes your work very easy.
And they hold your hand.
If you don't have it, it makes it difficult. So, for example, sometimes you can learn it the hard way. The first time we had to apply for tax clearance, we realized that just because we are not keeping records of our payments, we have to pay extra for tax clearance. But if you have a
tax expert,
that's what I'm saying. So have it in mind for a young startup that you need those professional skills. Good. Now, how do you get it? You can get it either at the commercial rate, or you can leverage through a family friend, leverage through a school friend, leverage through a former colleague who can still give you those services. Maybe believe in your dream and know that Goodwill is going to be international in about maybe 120 countries in the next 5 years. So because I'm giving this rate outside, and because I believe in you,
Absolutely.
Because I believe in you, I'm going to give you this. But by all means, you need a professional to guide you through that. How to secure or how to procure their services is how you as a startup company knows that, because you cannot afford those huge tickets, but then you can use other ways of getting it done. Or just like Fatima said, equity. So once you know that, especially in the don't forget that in one of my pitfalls, I told you that regulatory fines. if you avoid, sometimes for companies, the amount that they pay towards this regulatory fine, and I'm talking of big, entities. If you had a professional giving you that work, you'd save hugely, and you end up using that money to get your employees to be happier by giving them bonus. Imagine one of your employees find out how much you paid, maybe $200,000 in fines the previous year, and you're even struggling to increase their salary. So for me, as a professional, I know that whenever a professional gets involved in a project, including setting up a company, you save hugely in the long run. So for any startup friend out there or brother out there, the first thing you think of
or sister,
or sister,
Yes,
or sisters,
that's the
the first thing you need to do is that person who is already
you need someone to hold your hand.
That person who already knows that terrain, so it makes it easier for you to have a easy work in a park.
And honestly,
And
with the way you look at the budgets, I totally support you on that.
Look at even your tax. How do you even? There are so
Do you
many
even
things
understand
that
it?
you can.
You know,
if
what
you knew the
deadlines
right
you
thing, There are
have.
so many reliefs that you
When
can.
When do you have to
starting
pay back?
tax.
Yeah, so those things are very, very important.
Penalties that you
need
get
to
hit
have
on.
an accountant. And again, apart from getting it at the discounted price, if you cannot afford that, go the outsource way. You can have an HR outsourced. You can have accountant outsourced. You can have a lawyer outsourced. So that the cost of paying is not the same
In-house.
as
Yeah. But
so
then
those
again,
things are very, very
now you
important.
also have AI that is doing it all for you. And I keep telling my daughter, I mean, I did law, my daughter's going to do law. And I just said, at least I'm hoping that's one profession that cannot be replaced. Until I just, so was it 3 or 4 months ago,
I think
ChatGPT went.
they were sued in US also.
Yeah, they went and got a law. The guy went and lost the case, but then won it again after going to reread it. But it's important because ultimately, law is also about emotion. And you know, this is what people don't understand, that anything that you deal with has an emotion attached to it. And a lawyer understands where you're coming from, what are the challenges that you have. And their role, and the same thing with an accountant, is to try and help you maneuver it to your best interest, to be able to help your business manage it. And that's why I said there are a lot of young startups right now who are also finding that as a solution to offer to many. And like you said, outsource it.
Outsource. I think for a long time now, we have a few services that even at Goodwill we outsource. And we're getting value for money.
So Richard, what's the way forward for the young startup? What's the way forward? So I have all these dreams in my head. I've heard all that. Like last week, they told me how to register my company. Today, I'm being told I have to look at all the, I have to do partnerships. I have to look at the legal. I have to look at all the professional. Yes, there are so many things in my head right now. Right now, the young person wants to start the business. What is your advice?
Practically, start small, but think global. So I'm starting small now. I know the expected end, and it's because I have certain challenges. So I'm going to start no matter how small it is. If it means even starting on my status, you're starting small, but you know the expected end. So you start small, and with concerted effort, you know that definitely if it takes you 15, 20 years. So by starting small, if it is insurance broking that you're doing, like I said, you need to have a fair idea of what market research. And the market research can either formally by contracting someone to do, or informally. There are things that we know off our fingers, and we know that they exist, and we know that there's an area that you want to. Once that you found that area, what it is that you're going to give, what's that unique selling proposition that would identify you, make you a unique identifier in that particular environment. These are things you don't need money to do. These are things that are skills that you may possess yourself. Again, apart from that, who are the people that you've trusted in the past that you think can go at least a certain mile along this journey? And who are the people that you have sold yourself to as a trustworthy person? For which reason you can now rely on them to come on board, either to buy equity or even give you some form of soft loans and all that. So in all of this, to that young entrepreneur, I'll tell you that the first people you need to follow on is family and friends, because charity begins at home. If you go to somebody who is maybe an investment banker, whoever, or a company, and you're able to show to them that as part of your business plan, you've been able to raise about 60% of your capital from family and friends. If I am the loan officer or I'm the evaluating officer, definitely I'll know this is a young man who is able to, if he's trustworthy at home, he's trustworthy, he can be trustworthy with the bank. So these are things that once you're able to do, and it doesn't take much to do. So start small, think global. As and when you feel you have that financial muscle to be able to expanding to a certain leverage or a point or market, you will feel it, you will know. But eventually you have to start small. So for my brother sitting out there, don't be confused at all, or sister.
So Fatima,
do not be confused at all. Start small and get the basics right. Get a lawyer, get an accountant, get an HR who can do it on outsourced basis, who can walk you through that path. Then as you feel you're expanding, you can get them on full time, and then you expand to that global level.
Thank you.
I just want to...
The young dreamer.
The dreamer. I just want to tell this dreamer. I know that's what I was trying to do on my phone. If this dreamer could find 300 people that he could sell, or he or she could sell 100 Ghana cedis worth of something every day, 300 people, only for 25 days a month, they'll be making 750,000 Ghana cedis. Are you trustworthy? 100 Ghana cedis a day. Let's say that you even find that it's very difficult to find, to sell 100. Let's just say 50 Ghana cedis to 300 people a day for only 25 days, because God said you have to rest one day of the week. Okay? 375,000 Ghana cedis a month. Multiply by 12. 4.5 million Ghana cedis. What are we talking about? Why can't we dream?
I'm ready to start that business. Me.
Consistency.
I will be your partner.
Your brand.
I'm interested.
But you see what I'm trying to say? I'm just, you see,
And it's
Start small.
small. It's good. That's why I'm
Start
using this.
small.
I'm using the what he
Always
talked
start
about.
small, yeah.
Start small.
Start small.
Have no fear.
Think big.
50 Ghana cedis. And let's say today you didn't do 50, and then tomorrow you do 100. You've covered the 50 of today. Okay? But whichever way, what I'm trying to say is that it is possible. You've got to, I wouldn't use the word global. I would say global, because we now start taking global ideas and localizing them, you know. And there's a lot of opportunity in that space. Again, for me, in a nutshell, find the problem that is around you, in your family, in your friends, in your circle, things that you've been having as a challenge. What is the solution you think you can come up with? What is that idea that you have?
Thank you so much. You've learned something. Right. And frankly speaking, when you think of businesses, you always
Think like
everyone is like me. I'm not a business person. Some people are born to be entrepreneurs. Some people, Charlie, right now there's a lot of
in this economy, cannot afford not to do small business.
You have to find something else to do. And the question is, what is it? When you find it, how do you go about it? We've discussed that. The legal ways, we've discussed that last week. And so next week we are going to do, so the business is up. What are some of the agreements that has to be in place to protect you? So that will be done next week. So until next week, please take care of yourself. And don't sleep on that dream, that entrepreneurial dream. It's about time we start. And we are starting this season. God bless you and stay blessed.
Amen.
Amen.
I feel like starting another business.